Welcome to 5 Minute Hook, a video series where I examine the first 5 minutes of a game to see how it introduces itself to the player. Today, we're looking at the Waylanders, a game I don't think is very good. We're not here to make fun of the game though. We're here to learn what we can from what I would argue is a bad opening 5 minutes. So far, we've looked at games that, on balance, have very good introductions, but there's a lot more we can learn from games with room for improvement. What expectations would the player have going into this game? Well, it's a real-time with pause RPG. It's probably going to try and introduce us to the world and get us into gameplay a bit later than other games. It's more of a slow, talky game, and there might also be character creation, but we do want to get some choices in and get to some sort of meaningful interaction with the game early on. I reviewed this for The Escapist, link in the card in the top right corner, so I do know what's coming, but there's a lot to cover here. The timer starts now. Right up front, we get into difficulty selection, which I tend to prefer to give the player later, once they actually know how the game plays and whether it's hard or easy. This can be quite a point of friction. As you can see, I kind of pause here, where I'm like, which difficulty is the correct one? And I end up settling on what it calls the authentic experience, but maybe that wasn't the right choice. I had no way of knowing at the time. Some players will fall off right there. Now we get into character creation, which this is a fine place to put character creation in this kind of game. This is another time that players will get stuck. We all know the famous jokes about people taking half an hour to make their characters or an hour. It's kind of okay to put this here, but I'm going to do this game a favor and skip through a lot of this. There are a couple of things I want to cover before I do that though. One here is that you're choosing your character class and your origin, which you might expect would do something in terms of the story and the gameplay. So you're already choosing what kind of gameplay you want. That's more or less fine. The background, it's unclear on how much that will affect the story going forward, but we would expect to see that reflected in the first 5 minutes of the game. Now at this point, I finally got to the next stage of character creation, which is another one that I think should be left for later if at all possible. I had to look through and read all of these to figure out what strength does, what intelligence does, what willpower does. I also have to say that these long descriptions on the left, your mind is your greatest weapon. Through the years, you've mastered the knowledge to use incredible forces and abilities with minimum effort, mind over matter. That's way too long. All we really need to know is the bit at the bottom that tells us what it does. This screen is way overcomplicated. It's hard to pass how much these things matter before you get into the game. We're going to skip through this one as well. So at this point, we get the background and setup. There are some gods, they're in Ireland.
Who have any chance of being more civilized than we are, darling.
And now, this is where the origin actually comes to play, where the game just describes what your origin looks like.
Decadence, don't we? Our home, the other world, is absolutely.
And like this is fine, but this is taking valuable time away from playing the game, from making decisions. They're trying to do what Dragon Age did with having origin stories, but without the budget to make them playable origin stories. Oh look, the origin is over. We're on a voyage to Ireland.
You're charming, intelligent, eloquent, and a better negotiator in your sleep than any of these humans on their best day.
So they're building me up, I guess.
Whispers drift on the cool breeze as it wafts over the sea. Could it be that the one who will guide us to the new world is among us? Could this be the first verse of the legend of Mille España, the Waylanders? I
mean, this is fine, but it is a very long opening cutscene, and I'm not convinced that it's necessary. Oh, and look, it's still going. Okay, so there are stars and boats. Okay, this guy seems important. These are long shots. This is taking a while. What's happening here, guys? You want to fill me in? Okay,
You're the first to rise, my king.
he's a king.
Always.
Is there anything you need?
I just want to stress again that these opening moments are so
looking forward to
important
this
to
day
the
in my
pacing of
entire
the
life.
game,
The moment
to
I
just
finally
keeping a
meet
player's
Tuatha
interest.
De Danann. The moment we finally
There's
blend
an
our worlds
opportunity
into
cost
one.
here. We're doing
As
this
have
and
I.
we're not doing something else.
Though you might have to stop me from putting my foot in my mouth. Meeting my gods, my heroes. It's a lot.
I
to
also
take
tap
in.
my chest when saying the word heroes.
You don't have to do any of the talking. Or convince them to treat you like an equal. That's my
So like, which
For
one is
that,
us?
I'm grateful.
Are the others awake?
That new soldier woke even before me. The others are beginning to stir.
What about my son?
Do you want the honest answer? Or,
He's fast asleep, isn't
he didn't go to bed until
Okay,
about 2 hours
so the
ago.
son, he seems
pretty
like he's
certain
going to be
he's still drunk.
important.
he? Oh. I asked you to guard him. Watch over him.
I know, but
Perhaps the prince should remain here on the ship during our negotiations today.
then how will he learn?
Well, not from you, I suppose.
Ouch. Fair, but ouch.
Oh, here we are. Jeez, so that was like 4 minutes
was that
before
again?
I showed up on
The whole
screen.
time.
Oh, I was there the whole time?
So,
How
how do you
convenient.
feel about meeting the gods today?
Can I just say that these outfits, like, suck? Half the female characters are naked for some reason. So, like, this is our first choice. That's nice.
That's the
But
spirit. I'm
I
right
feel like
here
those were all
with you.
kind of the same
I
answer.
came up here in the first place to ask
Very
if your
similar.
Majesty wanted some breakfast.
Oh, it's
Well,
about
just
breakfast.
Allow me a few more moments alone to enjoy the stars on the
Well, he
horizon.
wants more
before
time
the sun
alone.
washes them away.
But of course, my lord.
So we didn't even get breakfast out of this.
Shall we?
Oh, I walked into this scene just to say one answer and then leave. This is... It's trying to be atmospheric, right? But why are we doing this and not... What? Like, I still don't know how to play the game. I've made one choice. I'm not interacting with this at all. And time is up. But, what did we learn there? So, how would we describe this opening? And I would describe it as almost devoid of gameplay, leaving aside that there's no combat and that you only make one choice and it's just sort of a like, are you excited or nervous? I don't think that opening did a great job of making a context for your character to exist in. Okay, so you get a couple of lines about where you came from, and you get a couple of lines about being on a boat to go visit the Tuatha De Danann, who live in Ireland and they're the gods. But what do the Tuatha De Danann mean to us? Like, it's sort of implied by listening to Amagan say, oh, it's a lot to take in. But to us, the player, what does it mean? We don't know any of the legends about them or any of the stories about them. We don't know what the world is like outside of this boat. How would meeting them change our perception of things? There's nothing to say about that. So that's one of the notable things that stood out to me is I didn't learn anything in that opening that really helped hook me on the game's story. What do we think the developers were hoping to achieve by making it this way? I would say that they're basically trying to hook you with the story, right? Like, you're going to visit the gods, that's kind of exciting, your character's there as some sort of negotiator. That's kind of interesting, that's kind of an interesting setup, and the failure of it to work that way, I think, is not that the idea's uninteresting, it's that it takes a long time to do something that isn't very important. We do need to meet King Ith, and we need to meet Amagan, but we really need to put the protagonist's place in the world first. I don't know how I relate to any of that, really. Like, sure, I'm some sort of negotiator, but then there's a scene about Amagan offering the king breakfast. Why is that first? What effect did it have on me? Honestly, in my first playthrough, I was cautiously thinking it could improve, until the next scene, after this one, where I realized that the game, I just didn't like the story at all. I did not like it. This scene didn't kill me. I felt it was quite slow, but I was like, okay, so they're going for a kind of epic angle. They're going going to try and make it feel really big, and then the next scene just informed me that it was just not going to be good. So the effect it had on me wasn't bad, but this is not the right way to open a game. Think of how much better the effect could have been if it wasn't like this. Did it teach me to play well or at all? No. I did one thing, which was learn to click a button. And this is actually a pretty generous reading. The game already made me choose my character class, my origin, my race, and my stats without really teaching me what those things meant or why they were important. And I just had to read a ton of text. And I didn't even include those in the 5 minutes because I thought it was kind of unfair to the game, because I spent more than 5 minutes doing just the character creation. So in the first 5 minutes, it did not teach me anything. That's not the effect that you want with your first 5 minutes. It should be your best content or an encapsulation of what the game's going to feel like in one small tasty packet. And if what the game's going to feel like is, oh, it could still be good, that's not the best foot forward for your game. So what can we learn from this game? Now, I think this is where it's really juicy, because I think that this game makes a number of mistakes. And the first one that I'm going to hit it with is, I think that the origin system is bad for this game. The reason is that it actually slows down the introduction. If they wanted the origin system, sure, have it. That's their decision, but it shouldn't go here. In Dragon Age Origins, you have an origin that you actually play through, and it acts as a sort of mini tutorial encapsulation of what the whole game is going to be like. You talk to people, you make some choices, you do some fighting, and it ends with you being sent to the Grey Wardens. In this game, it just says, hey, you're this kind of person. That doesn't give you any role-playing context, and so it should be gone. It's just dead air, really. I also think this is the first game we've played where it has really just been cutscenes for 5 minutes. Don't do that. You should try and get the player interacting with the story actively or interacting with the gameplay actively within the first 5 minutes. Technically, that choice that I made where I was choosing whether I was excited or nervous or disinterested, technically that was my first interaction. But it's so minor. It doesn't set me up to think, oh, I'm gonna make some big choices in this game. It sets me up to think, my character's just gonna say whether they're excited or not. And that's not good. So bigger interactions with the game early on, no cutscenes, or as few cutscenes as can be done. Also, I think that just some of the main form of gameplay is good here. The majority of your 30 plus hours with the Waylanders is actually walking around and clicking on enemies to kill them. That is not represented here at all. I did not even get to walk around in those first 5 minutes. I also think that there's something to be said for the way that this game doesn't put the main characters of the story forward. Amagon is very important, but he actually doesn't show up until like 3 minutes into the game. And your protagonist also doesn't show up until like 4 minutes into the game. Focusing on King Ith is interesting as an idea, but in practice, King Ith isn't the protagonist. I'm just now realizing after making this video that this is the third thing I've made about the Waylanders. I did not really mean to do this. It has just been stuck in my brain. This opening is not perfect. It has some real flaws, and I just kept going over and over about, why is this like this? Yeah, so I think I'm done with the Waylanders now. Remember to subscribe and like the video.